Eureka Video continues its exploration of German producer Otto Bronner and the much celebrated CCC film studio with adventure calls Karl May at CCC. 7 fantastic Western and adventure movies adapted from the works of the prolific writer. Actually, it's worth noting that, once upon a time, May claimed that he had in fact visited the Wild West in the late 1800s, where he was known as Old Shatterhand, perhaps blending his fantastical thoughts and writings with real life to help his creativity. As it stands, this alter ego of Karl May's was indeed fictional, a German gunslinger and blood brother to Winnetou, chief of the Mescalero tribe of the Apache. While his adventures were shared throughout many pages of May's writings over the years, the character of Old Shatterhand was brought to life on film via 6 titles known as the Winnetou series. Although most of these were with CCC Studios, the first started life under producer Horst Wendland, a former associate of Bronner's who, he claims, stole his idea of adapting May's work. With this new collection from Eureka Video, we get a mix of Western and adventure genre movies, including Old Shatterhand and Winnetou and Shatterhand in the Valley of Death, along with The Shoot, Through Wild Kurdistan, and In the Kingdom of the Silver Lion, followed by The Treasure of the Aztecs and The Pyramid of the Sun God. All 7 of the films have been lovingly restored in 4K UHD by CCC Film themselves, and it shows. They look fantastic in their Blu-ray presentation. Prior to watching each film, there's an optional introduction from author Sir Christopher Frayling, where he discusses in depth Karl May, the films themselves, the cast involved, the CCC studio, and more. While some plot points are discussed throughout, obviously leading to spoilers here and there, each introduction makes for a fantastic watch and are definitely worth your time. Running between 3 and 25 minutes, Frayling bombards us with plenty of incredible information and historic notes that genuinely held my attention without effort and helped me appreciate the films of this collection even more. Old Shatterhand is the first film of the set, beautifully restored in 4K and a wonderful start to this collection of Karl May westerns. Shot in Yugoslavia, which lends itself to some incredibly beautiful locations, the film is gorgeously captured by Siegfried Holt, who makes the most of the stunning scenery and delivers some visual moments that challenged even the greatest Hollywood westerns of that time. Running just over 2 hours in length, Old Shatterhand, which was also known as Apache's Last Battle in the UK, was the most expensive Karl May western of its time, and it's easy to see why. The production is massive, and with thanks to the new 4K restoration, we can see exactly where a lot of that money went. The story is set during a time when a peace treaty is in place between the Apaches and settlers, but when a spate of innocent ranchers are killed, all blame points to the Indians of that region. Thankfully, Old Shatterhand is back in town and recognizes that something is out of place. Tracking the killings back to a ruthless band of land grabbers and Comanches who are out to start a war between the Apaches and settlers, Old Shatterhand and his blood brother Winnetou put a stop to their wrongdoings. Before playing, viewers have the option to watch the film with its original audio, a compiled English dub track, or with an audio commentary by film historian David Kalat. While I chose its original German track and have seen a few of these genre movies now from the CCC studios, it still makes me chuckle when watching an old American-style Western movie where everyone speaks German. But that said, when films like this are so well made and so convincing, the language issue doesn't even come into play after a short while of viewing. Old Shatterhand was played with perfection for both studios by wonderful Hollywood actor Lex Barker. Born in New York, this classically handsome star gained a bit more notoriety when he became the 10th official movie Tarzan. After a solid run with that series, Barker then turned his talents to working on US-made westerns and dramas before heading over to Europe in 1957, where he would star in British and mainly Italian productions. But the best was yet to come, with Barker finally settling in West Germany, where he found great success starring in The Return of Dr. Mabuse and his first role as Old Shatterhand in Treasure of Silver Lake soon after. He would see out the rest of his working life there, occasionally returning to the United States to appear on television shows and do interviews. Winnetou and Shatterhand in the Valley of Death joins Old Shatterhand on the first disc, a remake of sorts of the very first Shatterhand film starring Lex Barker, Treasure of the Silver Lake, but it would also be the last film of the popular series. Also known as The Valley of Death, the film sees great French actor Perry Bryce return as Native American hero Winnetou, co-lead of Barker's, who was just as equally handsome. Although they starred together as the titular characters in many movies, Bryce would return to the role in 1980 for a French TV series called My Friend Winnetou, and later again in 1998 for a lengthy German TV movie called Winnetou's Return. In The Valley of Death, Old Shatterhand and Winnetou help solve the mystery of some missing army gold after a young woman, called Mabel Kingsley, arrives in town to clear the name of her missing father, who has been blamed for its disappearance. Dealing with their own problems along the way, such as bandits, enemy Indians and more, they reach the Valley of Death, where they soon find some answers. Once again, utilising the natural beauty of Yugoslavia, Croatia and Germany, and even taking some establishing shots from the Grand Canyon itself to add to the effect, The Valley of Death is another visual adventure equal to that of many Hollywood greats. With a little more humour added this time around, popular director Harold Rennell makes sure there's enough going on between the drama and action to keep us watching. Of course, Rennell was the original director on Treasure of the Silver Lake, so this was a great opportunity to polish up any issues he had with that previous project. Then again, Harold had already proven his worth with films such as The Forger of London, The Return of Dr. Mabuse, The Invisible Dr. Mabuse, The Strangler of Blackmoor Castle, and the majority of the Shatterhand Winnetou sequels. Running 30 minutes shorter than the previous title, The Valley of Death still proves to be a highly exciting adventure film packed with more cowboys, Indians, dirty dealings, and shootouts than you can throw a stick at. Joining both of these films on the first disc is a host of extra features, aside from the aforementioned introductions by Sir Christopher Frayling, which are available to watch separate to the start of the features. The first is an 18-minute archival making-of documentary on Old Shatterhand, obviously narrated in German with English subtitles, that sees producer Otto Bronner and others talk about how they brought Winnetou and Shatterhand to CCC, as well as some of the stories from the shoot. While presented in HD for this release, the film itself is unrestored in 4:3 ratio and is a great example of how Old Shatterhand looked before its 4K cleanup. There's an archival black and white Dalai Lave featurette that gives us just over 2 minutes on the popular Israeli actress and singer, followed by unrestored trailers for each of the films, the original English dub for Old Shatterhand, coming in well over 3 minutes, and the original 35mm grindhouse print of its sequel, again letting us see just how poor these films looked prior to the restorations. And finally, as mentioned, David Collat delivers his audio commentary on Old Shatterhand. On the second disc, we get The Shoot and Through Wild Kurdistan, two adventure movies based on Karl May's stories that sees Lex Barker return to lead. These are two very different movies to the first, although feature a few of the main cast members returning, such as the aforementioned Lex Barker, Marie Fersini, the prolific Ralph Wolter, who played the outrageous Sam Hawkins of the Wild West, and the popular Rick Battaglia, here starring as the titular villain of the piece known as The Shoot, or The Yellow One, which was the film's alternate title. While I did enjoy the cowboy adventures more so, I still had a great time with this Oriental adventure flick. Set during the rule of the Ottoman Empire, the story tells one of an illustrious villain called The Shoot, who terrorizes the most of Albania and its surrounding areas. Enter handsome hero Kara Ben Nemzi and his sidekick Omar, who are the only ones brave enough to put a stop to him. With some fantastic action scenes, including a great stunt on a rope bridge when it collapses, punch-ups and more stunning scenery, The Shoot isn't perfect, but it still entertains, with the Phileas Fogg-esque character and his assistant Archibald bringing many laughs to the table as a pair of unlikely, yet intrepid, adventurers who have a bottomless bag and love singing God Save the Queen when it suits. The film is directed by thriller specialist Robert Soydmak, who went on to gain success in Hollywood and give us classics such as West Point Window, Son of Dracula, The Killers, The Crimson Pirate, The Devil Strikes at Night, and the last two titles of this collection. The adventures of Kara Ben Nemzi continue in Through Wild Kurdistan, where our hero and his sidekick Omar have been hired by the Sheikh to rescue his son who's been kidnapped. Naturally, they face and overcome many problems along the way, making their rescue attempt into another wild adventure. Along the way, Kara and Omar bump into old friend Sir David Lindsay, the eccentric Englishman adventurer who, along with his faithful butler Archibald, are on their own rescue mission while looking for Noah's Ark. Once again, the hilarious comic relief is delivered by these latter characters, arriving in the desert in kilts with feathered berets before they end up as prisoners of the Turkish forces. And, much like the previous film, most of the same leading cast members return, this time joined by the great Werner Peters and Wolfgang Luxi. Originally supposed to have been shot in Turkey, the production shifted to Andalusia, Spain, that put to use the deserts of Almeria and allowed for more gorgeous scenery throughout. This time, Franz Joseph Gottlieb takes the reins, giving us as much of a flawed yet entertaining piece as the first. Of course, Gottlieb had already delivered some fantastic titles previously, including The Curse of the Yellow Snake, The Black Abbot, The Phantom of Soho, The Racetrack Murders, and others. Joining both films on this second disc, as well as the informatively short introductions by Sir Christopher Frayling, is an archival piece called Making Karl May's Orient Cycle. This 21-minute long documentary reveals some great insights to both movies, as told via actors from the film as well as Otto Bronner himself, who is quite the character. Presented in 4:3, it makes for a great watch and is a nice addition to the release. Following that, we get some archival newsreel footage, just under a minute of black and white footage showing Otto Bronner accepting an award on stage in Hanover, which was pretty cool to see. And finally, we get a trailer for each movie, both very unrestored and running between 3 and 4 minutes, which was a wonderful reminder as to how the films looked before their restorations, something worth checking out prior to your viewing of the features themselves. The third disc presents a single feature film and the second sequel in the Kara Ben Nemzi adventures with Kingdom of the Silver Lion, a quick production that was released only 3 months after Through Wild Kurdistan. Taking some inspiration from the massive Hollywood hit Lawrence of Arabia, the story continues the adventures of Kara Ben Nemzi and Omar as they find themselves up against their villains from the previous title. Accompanied by his trusted dog once again, the trio set out to rescue kidnapped women, take on the bandits, save the treasure, and stop the enemy no matter what. Playing like an immediate continuation of the previous film, the wonderful Sir David Lindsay and Archibald are on hand to help from the start. The shortest of all 3 movies, although still running at 95 minutes, Kingdom of the Silver Lion is hardly spectacular, but proves to be an entertaining romp overall and a great finish to the story of Kara Ben Nemzi. Once again, the stunning scenery proves to be the highlight of the film, but Lex Barker is genuinely a joy to watch in anything, no matter how good or bad the film is, delivering some fun action scenes and impressive stunts. Director Franz Joseph Gottlieb sticks around to continue his tale of Kurdistan, which helps the continuity in ways from before. Accompanying the film on the disc is a wonderful feature called Heroes on Horseback, a 15-minute piece with Dr. Alice Bronner, who discusses the works of Karl May at CCC. It's a fascinating look back at her father's work, of whom she talks very proudly about, and rightly so. The man delivered a huge number of highly entertaining and provocative works. Following that, we get a featurette called Prodigal Son, a 26-minute appreciation by Sheldon Hall on popular director Robert Soydmak, which makes for an interesting watch and great story on the filmmaker's life and career. A 3-minute archival restoration piece follows, presented in 4:3, and giving viewers a wonderful insight as to how these films are painstakingly restored. And finally, we get the very unrestored original trailer for Kingdom of the Silver Lion, running for over 4 minutes, but worthy of a peek before going into the full feature. As with the rest, the introduction from Sir Christopher Frayling is also available. The last disc of the set gives us the final 2 films of the collection, The Treasure of the Aztecs and The Pyramid of the Sun God, both of which were made before Through Wild Kurdistan and Kingdom of the Silver Lion. Aside from Frayling's great introductions to choose from, we also have the option to watch The Treasure of the Aztecs with another audio commentary by David Kalat. This time, Lex Barker stars as adventurer Dr. Karl May, a righteous man and physician of Count Bismarck, who is sent to Mexico by President Lincoln to deliver a letter of encouragement to the Mexican president in support of his battle against Austrian Emperor Maximilian. But while dealing with the struggles of the Civil War, Sternow also finds himself caught up in the hunt for some legendary Aztec treasure. Choosing to fight on the side of good, the dashing doctor does what he can to make sure the treasure is put in the hands of the rightful heir, Carta the Aztec princess. Of course, this is a mission filled with plenty of intrigue, battles, injustice, and action. I really enjoyed Treasure of the Aztecs. Lex Barker looked incredibly handsome as German physician Karl Sternow, who was, overall, a pretty enjoyable character to watch. He is joined once again by his usual co-stars Rick Battaglia and Rolf Wolter, with the latter playing another dedicated sidekick. It is, without doubt, one of the most unrecognised and long-standing pairing of actors in the history of cinema, with both stars playing off each other wonderfully. Director Robert Zoidmak takes the reins once again, delivering a fast-paced, exciting and wonderful adventure film overall. Aside from some establishing shots in Mexico, producer Otto Bronner shifted the production back to Yugoslavia, where he had shot many other Karl May adventures. But it works. From the scenery to the set pieces involved, viewers are well and truly convinced that this adventure is taking place in Mexico. While I find this to be an exciting enough film overall, with shades of Shatterhand and Carabin Nemzi showing throughout, the German press weren't too convinced upon its release. The story continues in Pyramid of the Sun God, which, when watched back to back with Treasure of the Aztec, plays as an epic 3-hour western adventure. As before, the film is packed with colourful characters, many of whom have returned from the first film, with Rolf Wolter providing more laughs as he has done in most of the films in this collection. The film opens with a great 10-minute recap of the best bits from Part 1, before we see the wicked Captain Ferdoja making a deal with the hostile clan of Chichimeque Indians to team up and cause havoc while searching for the treasure. Of course, after breaking free from the bandits who torture him for the whereabouts of the Aztec treasure, Dr. Sternow and his friends continue fighting on the side of good. The grand finale takes place in an impressively built Aztec temple set piece before shifting to the secret cave of treasure, where greed gets the better of Ferdoja and his men, and no one gets out alive. As with all CCC productions, especially those included here, the film is bursting with colour, gorgeous scenery, interesting characters, exciting action scenes, and a wonderful score, some of which was lifted from other films. While they may not all be perfect, it's clear that a lot of work and love have went into each production, and they deserve to be watched one after the other, with these new 4K restorations making it an even better experience. Along with the usual introductions and original trailers for each of the movies, the only other special feature contained on this final disc is an archival interview with Bernhard Schmidt, the co-editor of Karl May Verlag. This runs just under 7 minutes, presented in 4:3 ratio, and sees him give his honest opinions on the film adaptations, which make for a good watch. Interesting guy though. So, big in production, big on scale, and big in cast, The Adventure Calls Karl May at CCC collection from Eureka Video is a big release that is worth getting your hands on. Numbers 350 to 356 of their Masters of Cinema series, the limited edition set also comes with a stunningly put together 60-page book featuring new writings on Karl May and the films included by experts such as Tim Bergfelder, Holger Haas, and Lee Broughton. The only thing that did stand out to me in some of the films was the brief scenes of black as the audio played on. Perhaps this was some sort of censorship due to animal cruelty rather than a technical issue, but it also wasn't a deal breaker. Overall, I was thoroughly pleased with everything in the set, from the movies included to the presentation, and look forward to revisiting Adventure Calls Karl May at CCC once again sometime soon. Thank you for watching, and thank you for your continued support. Don't forget you can read more reviews over at the Celluloid Misfits website, and keep checking back here on the channel for more videos coming soon.